Question 258. Why does the Church require priests and bishops to live a celibate life?
Jesus lived as a celibate and in this way intended to show his undivided love for God the Father. To follow Jesus' way of life and live in unmarried chastity for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. Matthew chapter 19, verse 12. Has been since Jesus' time a sign of love, of undivided devotion to the Lord, and of a complete willingness to serve. The Roman Catholic Church requires this way of life of its bishops and priests, while the Eastern Catholic Churches demand it only of their bishops. Why must a priest live celibately? The role of a priest is to represent the fatherly character of God and Jesus. That way, they have more time for the church community. When Jesus was doing his public ministry, he spent time with people when he traveled away from home, sometimes not having a place to lay his head. Luke chapter 9, verse 58. That shows a priest needs to make a huge sacrifice for people and be there for them completely. If a priest is married, he would need to schedule his time with his family and people, which means less time to give to the church community. Priests are to be a good model for society to show how making a sacrifice for Jesus is worthwhile. Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI says, "A person cannot remain empty in love, but rather must allow oneself to be overcome by a passion for God." That's why society has always needed priests since Jesus' time. The Pope goes on to say, Christ needs priests who are mature and manly, capable of exercising a true spiritual fatherhood.
Question 259. How is the universal priesthood of all the faithful different from the ordained priesthood?
Through baptism, Christ has made us into a kingdom of priests to his God and Father. Revelation chapter 1, verse 6. Through the universal priesthood, every Christian is called to work in the world in God's name and to bring blessings and grace to it. In the upper room during the Last Supper and when he commissioned the apostles, however, Christ equipped some with a sacred authority to serve the faithful. These ordained priests represent Christ as pastors, shepherds, of his people and as head of his body, the church. The word priest often causes misunderstandings because it can be used for two things that are related. But are very different. Second Vatican Council, Lumen Gentium, the Light of the Nations, 10:2. On the one hand, we should observe with joy that all the baptized are priests, because we live in Christ and share in everything he is and does. Why then do we not call down a permanent blessing on this world? As Peter wrote in his first letter, like living stones be yourselves built into a spiritual house, to be a holy priesthood. To offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. Chapter 2, verse 5. The lay faithful's role as priests are to also participate in sacrificing spiritually for Christ. On the other hand, we must rediscover God's gift to his church, the ordained priests, who represent the Lord himself among us. The ordained priests are the ones who have the sacred authority as our shepherds to offer the holy sacrifice of the Mass and administer sacraments. Hello, I'm Father Sean Carey, and this is my name sign. I'm from the Archdiocese of Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you for watching. See you next week.